Electricast.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Dripping in gold? That's cool. Dripping in Velveeta's supremely creamy golden cheesiness? That's respect. Elevate your drip with Velveeta's range of outrageously delicious dips and dishes. Shells, cheese, melty blocks, and heat and eat queso that go all in on indulgence. Flex on your fam with a creamy, cheesy masterpiece and go all in on what you love with Velveeta. Respect the drip and satisfy your cravings. Bring home the drip with Velveeta.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're talking with Kasey Anton. Kasey is the founder of Spark Business Consulting, author of Profit First for Restaurants, and a former Boston University adjunct professor. With 30 years in the restaurant and small business world, she helps entrepreneurs build wealth through smart systems and real profit. Kasey, I'm really happy to welcome you to the show today.
Why, thank you, Leslie. Oh, great to be here. I'm excited to be here. Let's do this. What are we going to talk about? I can talk about money all day long.
Yeah. Well, before we start, I wanted to just say that I love your mission statement on your website and particularly your key characteristics that you have in your statement that are profit-minded, intelligent, communicators, and driven. And I love that because you're saying that you not only understand profit, how it works, how it's created, this is what you've written, but you're also looking for ways to improve it. Then as intelligent communicators, you understand that everyone communicates differently. And so you keep things simple, straightforward, and consistent to ensure that your clients understand and are clear about what's important. And you're also driven, which I love, because you're relentless in your pursuit of knowledge. I feel like learning is growing. Learning and being of the best versions of yourselves and giving your best at all times. And so I love that. And I wanted to bring this up to our listeners because for me, it shows that you live from integrity and that you really do want your clients to succeed, which is why I was really excited to have you say yes and to join us and close out this Wealth with Integrity series, which is all about ethical wealth, values-driven money practices, legacy planning, and sustainable values-driven growth. So I just wanted to mention that before we get started.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Yeah. It's been probably a little while since I've actually, gone into my website to look at that. And so hearing you echo it back to me, I'm like, yep, checking like all that very true to today. And we came up with those over 10 years ago, but all very true today and really represent who we are. So love the reminder.
Yeah, of course. Well, I love that. Well, let's dive in.
Yeah.
So you've spent over 30 years in the restaurant and small business world. And today you help entrepreneurs build true wealth through profit-first strategies and smart financial systems. But can you share first a little bit about your journey? What led you into this work? And what made you passionate about helping business owners become truly profitable?
I sure can. Where do I start? Well, I'll start with just a little bit about, my background, where I come from in terms of how it led me to be here with you today, Leslie, right? So I always knew that I was going to be in the restaurant industry. I don't know how. It's not in my family at all. I don't think anyone in my family worked in restaurants but me. It's just I had this passion for hospitality since I was 6 years old. It's just something that I've always been enamored with the restaurant industry. But, as I was getting toward college age, my parents were like, absolutely not. That is a grueling, hard, late night profession. That's not for you. You need to go to college for something else. So since they were, paying half the bill, I went to University of Rhode Island, got a degree in communications because that could be like almost anything. So I did that. I got a degree in communications and business and marketing minors. And then as soon as I graduated, I went right into the restaurant business anyway, because that's what I wanted to do. So that's where I kind of started. And I worked at a bunch of restaurants, eventually moving me to Boston, working in the Chart House restaurant, which was at the time like the #1 management training program in restaurants in the country. Like I really climbed the ladder there. Then eventually discovered all these beautiful bistros, met some friends, found some investors, and opened our own restaurants in downtown Boston at the heyday of restaurants, which I think Boston, New York, Chicago still kind of enjoy that right now. So we worked in one of the best restaurants in Boston. We owned one, so that was really great. Had the best of times, had the worst of times. So we were living the high life when we first opened for a few years, and it was fantastic. And then, as most restaurants do, not all, but most, and by most, probably over 90%, you kind of have this decline and you're just trying to stretch the dollar as far as it can go. And I did that until I was eventually able to sell it because at the time, my partners and I were going in different directions in our lives. So it was a new chapter. Sold the restaurant in 2006, thought I'd be a stay-at-home mom. That lasted about 4 seconds. It is literally the hardest job I've ever attempted to do, way harder than anything else I've tried. So I knew that I couldn't do that, but I was thinking like, what am I going to do now? All I've known is restaurants to this point, and there's no way I could go back into the restaurant industry the same way I'd been in it, which is 14-hour days, 6, 7 days a week, and have an infant. So I took stock of my the skills that I had built within the industry to see what could translate to another line of work. And as it turned out, I got really good at the numbers. I got really good at financials. I got great at QuickBooks and became certified because I had to when I owned my restaurant in order to be able to keep it open long enough to be able to sell it. Like I really had to understand financials just for survival based. So I thought, oh, okay. So now that I understand a balance sheet and a pro forma or an income statement and how they relate and can kind of explain that to anyone, I'm like, oh, maybe some other businesses could use this as well. So I called up some friends that own restaurants. They're like, yeah, sure, Case, come help me with my books and accounting. And from there, they had a friend that was a painter or interior designer. And then, hey, can you help me with my books too? And I thought, I don't know anything about those industries, but went and met with them. 1+1=2, no matter where you go. I'm like, oh, I could do this too. So that's how Spark was born. And that's the name of the company I now run. And I opened in 2008, Spark Business Consulting. So what sets us apart and why we're in the top 1% of bookkeeping firms in the US, which is based on gross volume, is for the characteristics that you mentioned at the beginning of our call here, is that you were able to take what can look like very complex systems, understanding assets and liabilities and equity and all those things, and break it down and really simplify it and explain to a business owner, hey, here's what you need to know, and here's what this all means, and this is what's happening in your business, and here's how we make it better. So I kind of, just from probably living and breathing it myself, I was able to relate that to so many business owners, and that's why we gain so much work. And every one of our clients is by referral, and we have over 200 clients. I've worked with thousands over the last 20 years. And it's just based on that and helping them understand the numbers, why they're important, and how they can use them to guide their business in whatever direction they want it to go. So then eventually that's when I'm here. I wrote a book for restaurants and financials in restaurants and profit. And from there, I go around, I speak about it, and I'm on fabulous podcasts like yourself, just talking about it and, what I love to do. I do it for free.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I have a follow-up question. I was wondering, was there a moment, especially the last 20 years, first getting into this, and I can so relate. By the way, I'm not a mom, but I do know that is a second job for a lot of women who have like careers or businesses, and they also have a household that they manage. That's a second job in itself.
Yeah.
So it's like your day never ends.
Correct.
So I just want to say, like, first of all, put that out there because I never really fully. I guess it's not that I didn't understand it, but I never fully really appreciated just how hard moms work until I got older and started thinking about, okay, there is, just because I might have followed my career path, those moms who followed their career path that sat alongside me, they also went home to a second job. So now I fully understand that. And I have a lot of respect for women who've really managed to go out and build their lives and be able to raise incredible kids. So first of all, I just wanted to put that out there. But
That's nice.
my question, yeah, I have a follow-up because I wanted to know, was there a moment when you realized just how many businesses were generating revenue but not actually building wealth?
Yeah, I knew that very early on in the stage of Spark, right? So I knew that once I started building up these rosters of clients. So I'd say in the first 2 to 3 years of Spark, I probably grew to like 40 to 60 clients, somewhere in there. And they were all over the place. There were construction and all the trades and designers and service-based and medical offices. They were all, I took anybody. I took anyone. Because once I figured out I knew what I was doing, I just took anyone. Later found out that was a mistake, but I did it at the time. And they were all suffering from the exact same problem, all of them, which is they didn't understand the financials, but they didn't understand it to a point that they were either shooting themselves in the foot and they were incurring so much debt that they would never climb out of it, which was just dangerous, or they could have been doing so much better, but just had no clue. So I just realized, and no matter how many times I would produce their profit and loss and produce their balance sheet and sit down and meet with them and explain it, and they'd nod and they would, yep, oh yeah, Case, that makes sense. And they would agree with me. They would just go back to their office or their business and do what they were always doing before. It didn't matter what I said, although I know they listened to me. Just they were still going to just do the same thing. So the moment came where I found, I feel like, a solution to this was when I read the original Profit First book by Mike Michalowicz. And that book, it came out, I think it came out in like 2015 or 2016. I read that book like a year or two, I think it was a year after it came out. And I forget, it was recommended to me a couple of times over a year period. And I thought, finally, I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm going to read this thing. People keep talking about it. And I was on vacation in Maine and I was sitting down, I cracked open the book and it was in the first 1 to 2 chapters where I was like, this is it. This is what all of my clients in every industry, this is what they needed to hear, and this is what they needed to do to drive their business forward. It was immediate. And I jumped off my chaise lounge chair. I go running to my hotel room. I called Profit First headquarters because you become certified to be able to do it in your business. And the rest is history. So I was one of the first 50 to ever do it. Now there's, probably thousands of us. But what was key in that book, because it didn't matter how beautiful and colorful I made their financial reports, it didn't matter. It was the money that talks. And they would all manage their business off what's called bank balance accounting. So they would sit at their desk, they'd log into their bank account, they'd look at the balance, and they'd be like, great, I'm going to make decisions based off of the balance that I see. And it is so wrong, so dangerous, and so backwards to manage anything, even your household budget, let alone your business, off a bank balance, because there are so many things tied to that you're not thinking of at the moment that you're looking at it. So it's this Profit First is very psychologically driven, but it simplifies everything. It simplifies your money and breaking it into different accounts with different names so that you don't look at that bank balance and feel like you could go, buy a jet ski or go on vacation because there's 10 grand in there, because you're not thinking, oh, but you have college loans or you have a mortgage or whatever. At that moment, you're just thinking 10,000 is a lot more than I usually have. Let me go spend it. So that was the big difference, is the bank balance accounting that every business owner practices. They still to this day, they practice, and it's what gets them into all their trouble. It really does. So this system, this Profit First system, completely changes the game. And when people follow it and start using the system, they leverage the same behavior of you sitting at your desk, logging into your bank, but instead of looking at one bank account, now you're looking at 5, 6, or 7, depending on your business. And every bank account is nicknamed for its purpose. So whether it's payroll or whether it's operating expenses, whether it's your rent, it's all custom to your own business. But you give every dollar a job and you put them in these different accounts. And so now when you log in and you see this, you know exactly what you have to spend. So that 10,000 in my example now could be 2,000 here, 1,500 here, 500 here. And so now when you look at your accounts with those names and the balances, it's okay to make assumptions. Okay, I got $500 in my operating expense. I can go buy some computer paper or whatever it is. So it was that made all of the difference with small business owners.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I want to go a little deeper into that because I know for us, especially as women, there's this uncomfortableness about focusing on profit, right? Because we start to feel like we're being selfish or we're being greedy. And that's why I think a lot of people think, oh, well, to want more is being selfish. It's being greedy. Like it comes down to those money beliefs of money is bad, it's evil. Like only people who have like the worst agendas have a lot of money and they just do bad things with it. And I don't think that's true, but I think there's just a lot of these money beliefs that are floating around out there. Or maybe it feels misaligned with their values because for them, it's about giving, but they don't realize it's okay to have that profit, right? So why do you think this mindset's so common? And how do you help your clients reframe profit as something purposeful and powerful?
So there's a lot right there, Leslie. It's all very, very true and very accurate and very common, everything that you just said. And I I have so much to say about that. So first of all, I think I'm going to start with profit is absolutely not greed in any way, shape, or form. That is not what profit is about. As a matter of fact, what I find most business owners do not understand is that you cannot operate a business without profit. It's what feeds it. It needs profit. If you don't have profit in your business, then you have a loss. And that loss means you have debt. And that will just keep cycling if you don't understand how important it is to drive profitability in your business. So, because profit is the only way to service debt. So whether it is you use a credit card for your business and you pay your credit card off, or you have a loan from wherever, the only way to pay that is through profit. There's no other way to pay it. It's the only way to pay yourself back if you invest your own money, time, whatever in your business. Profit is what pays that back. So profit is a critical, I would argue it's the number one most important thing every business should have, just so it can function, be strong, and support itself. So that's a common misnomer that people think profit is just about like greed, lying in your pockets. That's insane. I don't even know where that came from. But I want to say, coming out of college, I probably had somewhat of a belief, but for me, that excited me. It didn't repel me like it does many other people. Because I think, as an entrepreneur, I think it's a calling and it's like, I just want to see how profitable I can make this thing. That's just how I evaluate my performance as a business owner. You want to create something that produces, spits out profit, and that profit's used for so many things. I think that people, one, don't understand that, how crucial it is. And if you don't have profit, you're really digging a hole of debt. Secondly, I feel like I don't see this very often with male business owners. I really don't. I honestly only see this with female business owners, which, by the way, are my favorite business owners to work with, are the women business owners, has always been that way. I find that overall, no offense to men, but overall women are smarter and that they work harder and they also listen, which is what I love about women business owners. Most of the men, not all, but most of the men, either they feel like they already know everything or they feel like there's something wrong with listening to somebody else. So they're just going to go make their mistakes all day long, where a woman understands that you need to surround yourself by people who know things that you don't. Like, I knew that from day one. I want to surround myself with people smarter than me. Like, I don't need to, if I had to know everything, oh my God, I'd be exhausted all the time. Like, I don't want to know everything. I want to hire people to do that stuff. So most women kind of understand that and they surround themselves by smarter people, as they should. The profit thing is interesting though. And I don't know if that comes from like our grandmother. Somehow I feel like, my great grandmother, grew up in the Depression. Obviously she's not around anymore, but there was always this penny pinching mindset, because I noticed that my mother still has it to this day, this coupon clipping, not wrong coupons, but like this coupon clipping, penny pinching, I don't need it, I won't buy it mindset. And quite frankly, it's wrong. I think it's wrong. What's the point? Why are we here? Like that, what's the point? Like, if you work hard enough and you produce something, whether it's profit or your paycheck or whatever it is, you should reward yourself within reason, not irresponsibly. But why wouldn't you? And you should, because for me, that just makes you want to do more of that thing and have more of it and do better. And for me, it's all about providing a great place for employees to work. I now have 12 full-time employees. I hope to have more, because I want to provide them with an amazing job that they love coming to, where we help hundreds of business owners create the business of their dreams, and they join me on that journey and love doing it. Imagine if we could do it more and more and more. Like, it's all good, but I can't do any of that if I don't show a profit. If I don't have a profit, like none of that would happen. I would stay stuck with it just being Kasey's bookkeeping service. So, profit is the opposite of evil. It is everything in a business. It means everything. It is everything. And I just think, I think that we just developed that mindset, I think mostly as women many, many years ago. And it just helps to really break the chains on that and understand profit from a business perspective.
Yeah, I love your response to that. And I also, you brought up something about the grandmother, the idea around money. When I was growing up, I had my grandfather, my mom, he was always good with money. And whenever she needed money, he was always there to give her money. So I don't think there was really any teaching there except to when you need it, you go and find it, right? Like that, the way, in other words, you ask other people for it. And she never really paid that money back. And I'm not faulting her for that. She was raising three children on her own, doing the best that she could. But I remember him saying something to me, and I still remember it today because he said, I remember, I don't know if I was talking about saving my money or whatever the conversation was, but he had said to me, don't save your money, spend it because you can't take it with you. So there was no real, there was no teaching moment there to say like how to invest it, what to do with your money. I think my grandmother probably was the one that was more of the person who really understood finances, but I unfortunately didn't get to meet my mother's mom because she passed away before I was born. But she was able to to secure two pieces of property on the waterfront. This is like decades ago, of course, but on the waterfront, and then selling one piece of that property. And these are not small properties; these were very large pieces of property. And she sold one to her sister, and they kept both properties. Now, my mom since does no longer have my grandfather's property anymore, but it's the other side of the property is still in the family name, which I love that. But getting back to the idea of like there was no real, I never learned about like what it means to invest, what it means to steward my money. I learned that money was something that as soon as you got it, you spent it. In fact, you were thinking ahead of before you even got the money, how you were going to spend it. That's just what I grew up with. And it was just because my mom had three kids that she was trying to support, trying to provide for, but she never really had any real money skill sets. She just did what she did the best that she could. And I had to learn a lot of lessons on my own. Same with my brothers. They had to learn lessons on their own. So I want to come back to, because what I was thinking was, as you were saying that, I know partly there was this avoidance. Once I started seeing like my bad money patterns, because I had a lot at the time, I used to rack up debt and I would walk away from my debt as if it meant nothing. And I don't feel good about that now, obviously. But back then there was like no accountability. And I think it's not because I wasn't a smart person, but I guess I felt the overwhelm, the shame, also unsure of what to do. So I want to talk to you about that, the emotional side of financial wellness, because I know that's some way that you also help your clients. I want to ask you, what can change when a woman, especially because women listen to this podcast, and I know that women a lot of the time are the ones that are taking care of the finances at home. So what changes when a woman can start making decisions from the data and not just from the emotion and be able to be like really well versed? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a great question. And I do tackle this a lot because there is always an emotional element when it comes around money, and everybody comes with different money baggage. I think I mentioned throughout my book, like if I read another book, it'll be about people's crazy relationship with money. We're all crazy when it comes to it. And I think a ton of it, if not all of it, comes from our upbringing and whether money was even discussed or not. In my household, it was like never even like really just, it was like a taboo. Like it wasn't like, couth to talk about money or something. I don't know. I don't think that way anymore. I talk to my kids about money all the time. I mean, my kids are still fairly young, so we'll see how that turns out. But I make sure that like I make them understand what profit is and et cetera. But when it comes to like, I think part of why I like what I do so much is because it is very black and white. Money management. I think is kind of what we're talking about, but you managing your money responsibly, which of course you should, because if you don't, you're just going to get in tons of trouble. So managing your money it is just so black and white that it doesn't really leave room for emotion. And it's a fairly simple thing to do. Most people do not want to look at it. They want to keep their heads in the sand when it comes to money and spending, because let's face it, a lot of people are, spending more than they make. I was one of them. I get it. I did that, especially like in my 20s, a little bit in my 30s. I was just spending way more than I made. But also I was a hustler, and I knew that, like, all right, I can go on this vacation. I can buy this 3,000 thing now because I'll just work my ass off in the next couple weeks and I'll make it up. And if you have that mindset, that could work for a while. At some point you're going to get exhausted. But a lot of people do not. But in order to put guardrails up around your money, it's a pretty simple thing. You just figure out what your income is per month. So whether that's your joint income with your spouse, or if it's you singular, however your family is set up, you figure out what that is. And then you figure out like what your living expenses are from your rent or your mortgage, utilities, et cetera. And you apply a percentage of that. So if I'm spending $2,000 on my rent and my utilities and my internet or whatever it is, and I make, say $10,000 a month, well, then I know 20% of my monthly income has to go over, and I got to be able to pay for the roof over my head and the lights on and everything like that. And you can do the same. So that's just occupancy, right? That's just the roof over your head. You could do the same for your grocery bill or your kids' college or whatever it is that makes sense in your business. You can do this literally with a pencil and a cocktail napkin and kind of just figure it out. And you'll be able to know like where the money's going, where the money needs to go, where it should be going. And you can also figure out, oh, I'm overspending here, I'm overspending there. But what I like about kind of, pulling the curtains back on having everyone do this quick, fairly easy exercise is that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to talking about this. So just know, just have an idea of, okay, what kind of money is flowing into your business. I'm not talking about what it shows like on your W-2 or whatever it is, because that might be a gross income. That's not what you actually take home. We want to do it with real money. Grab your bank statement. Grab your credit card statement. Like, let's start with the real money. Let's figure out how much is coming in and then where it all goes. Give it some organization, a couple of percentages. From there, you'll just get a lot of clarity. Like the clouds will literally feel like they've lifted. No more fog. You'll have some clarity right in front of you on this piece of paper, whatever you use, and go, okay, now I see it. And here's what happens, because I do this exercise a lot. I've been doing it for years. A lot of times it's, oh my God, okay, well, I'm basically spending every single dollar that comes in, or I'm overspending, which is why I have this credit card balance. That's probably the most common. And then they'll go, oh man, but like, that means I can't eat out anymore. I can't get my Starbucks. Like, that's why people don't want to do this exercise, because they don't want to be told you eat out too much, you have too much DoorDash. Like, and that's not what I'm here to do. That's not what anyone should do. Like, you need to have some fun and some enjoyment in your life. And if that's where you find that, then let's just make room for it somewhere else. You can't have everything, of course, if you aren't a fixed income or any type of income that you understand, right? But let's make room for that. Hey, you want to spend $500 a month eating out? I'm all for it, but let's find somewhere else where we can take that money from. Is there any negotiation with your internet bill, or do you need to drive a Range Rover, or, somewhere? But just like being able to move the piece, it's like a puzzle, like move the pieces around, have some clarity around what's going on, find out what's important to you. Let's make that happen. And then let's make the other stuff fall into place. As soon as we can do that with just data, like you had said, just data, piece of paper, a pencil, some bank statements, a lot of that right there kind of clears up so much confusion or shame or whatever it is, someone's feeling about money. And now they feel like they can take back control of it. It's very empowering.
Yeah. And I know, especially when I started to learn, like this isn't right, some of my previous behavior, and then realizing, okay, what do I really want? What's possible if I just became more responsible and didn't need all those things? And one of the things I truly live by now is that I collect experiences, not things, because things can be replaced. And also, it's just a bunch of stuff. Like, I used to have a lot of things, and it was like I really didn't need all of it. It was just not that I was hoarding, but it just felt that it wasn't something that I needed. And
Yeah.
so I realized that because I didn't need it, I could say, okay, well, what was really important? Like, again, it's not about like, oh, if I don't need it, I'm not going to buy it. It was more about do I need to go shopping because I need to feel better? Like it's going to make me feel better, like that instant gratification because I feel better because maybe I feel down and just like that emotional shopping. And that's what I did a lot of. And I realized, well, that emotional shopping, all that did was have a bunch of stuff in my closet with price tags on them still, things I never wear, things I didn't really like. And then I ended up not even taking back. So all of that was just money wasted to me sitting in a closet. So I started becoming more consciously aware around that and then realizing, okay, I want to be a better steward of my money. I want to be able to look at what I have, not necessarily like just looking at the balance, but really stewarding my money well, like where am I spending it and how am I spending it? And so I really just felt like I really needed to learn money skills that would support me in the way that, okay, how do I want my money to look? And so now for me, it is all about collecting experiences and money helps me to do that. And I would prefer to have those experiences to look back on and say, wow, like that was so incredible. Like, as I've told you, I'm on coffee chat first met. I live in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I've been here just a little over a year and a half. Now, right today, as we're recording, it's a little cool, but for the most part, every day, my life is in t-shirts, shorts, and flip flops. So my life is really good. Money helps me to be able to do this. So anyways, I wanted to at least say that part. I don't want to go too far off left on that. But one of the things I did want to come back to, I should say segue into is growth, because I know that the scaling part, like when people have businesses and now they want to scale it, if you don't have a clear plan, I feel like that has the potential to create chaos for you. So when you're working with someone, especially in that scale season of their business, how do you help your clients scale their business in a way that's sustainable, it's values driven, because I know that's very important for you, and still financially strong?
Yeah, I'd say my first question is always why. So, why do they want to scale? When it comes to pretty much any business, the old saying is so true: one is one, but two is 10. It will absolutely feel like that. So, I like to drill in on the why, first of all. A lot of times, especially like I work heavily in the hospitality industry and retail as well. If they're looking to open another location, it's usually because they just think, well, that's just the next logical step. I'm going to do it. And there's a space open and someone said I should. Those are kind of like the things that I get, but then I'll wipe that aside and say, no, we're going to drill down why. Why do you want a second location? Because they need to really understand that 2 is 10. It is going to feel like you're going to have 10. It's going to feel like 10 times the work, if not 100 times the work to have 2 locations because you're literally like split in 2. So there's that. So there's the why. But once we get through the why and what that could mean for their livelihood, for their life, really their lifestyle will be completely different. They will most likely be married to the other location for a very long time. So it'll completely change their social family life. But if we get through that, then the next piece is, how are we going to fund it? Well, first of all, what part of the why really is, is the world need it? I mean, if you own a burrito truck and yours is doing fine, you want to have another one. Okay, does the world need it? All right. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it does. And maybe there's a location, but we want to make sure like we're doing this because there's a demand for it and you're going to have customers. Like it has to be. Not like I like it. My Uncle Paul likes it, so I'm going to go open that. And like, there has to be a demand. And there's different ways we can kind of go figure out, is the demand there or not? They're not scientific. They're pretty obvious ways that I've kind of developed, but they work. So why? Like, yes, there's a demand, there's a space, they need this, there's no Mexican over there, they need, all this going on, let's I'll be perfect over there. All they have is sushi or whatever. Okay, so we check that box. Great. Then, all right, so what's it going to cost? And how are we going to fund it? And I'm always going to be a champion of self-funding. I'm going to be a champion of it because when you incur debt, you literally, it's like shackles on your wrist. It in so many ways than just the actual payment that you pay back. So sometimes there's a need for it. And there is good debt and there is bad debt. So sometimes good debt can work, but we need to understand it. We need to have a plan for it and how we're going to pay it back, how long we're going to hold it. All kinds of things are involved with debt, which most people do not even think about. They just feel like, ooh, I got some money, and they're going to go spend it, and that's where you get in trouble. So I'd prefer no debt and self-funding. And the other reason why I like self-funding is it's like putting your money where your mouth is. Oh, you really think you need this other location? You really think it's going to work? Okay. Well, then you put up the money and we'll pay you back. And we can make that second location pay you back with interest. So now you just made money on your own money and it's your business. That's a win-win-win all day long. And it's also better than incurring debt, which is going to cost you money and could really hurt a lot of other things. So we kind of do that. Self-funding is always the way to go if you can. If you need debt, okay, but it's got to be smart. It's got to make sense. You need to plan for it. So all these things, there's so much to think about when it comes to scaling. And when I have these conversations, it almost feels like I'm anti-scaling or I come across, and I certainly don't mean to be. I am 100% about scaling. I love growth. Like, as a matter of fact, we don't even take clients on here anymore that are just kind of like going through the paces and really have themselves a job versus actually being an entrepreneur owning a business. Kind of steer away from them. There are cheaper options than what we do. We are 100% about growth minded. Let's see how far we can take this thing. So I love it, but there's a way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong. And so we do it the right way. And it's just about really, having that kind of come to Jesus moment. Like, is this something that we need, the world needs? Does it make sense? Can you afford it? Does the business model work? Just a lot of different, almost like a 360 view of the business first. How are we going to fund it? And then the last piece that I can really think of at the moment is, what's your stomach for if it doesn't go as planned? So of course you need to have a business plan. Every business needs a business plan. It's either the one you create or the one created for you, which is usually not the good one. And then in the business plan, you have projections and you're going to have like your good, better, best, and your good sort of your break even. So the last piece is kind of, okay, so here's your good, your break-even plan. What if you don't hit those numbers? What if it's half that, which means you're probably going to have a loss? Very, very common in new businesses, second, whatever, very common. That's okay. It's common, but what's your stomach for it? Meaning, if we hit month 6 and you've lost money every month, and now we're in the hole, $50,000 or $75,000. Do we want to pull the plug now and eat it and be like, okay, or what's going to change so that we come out of this hole for those next 6 months? Like, there's a point in every business cycle where it's better to kind of pull the plug and just eat the loss as you have it versus to keep going, but with no real change in mind, no real indicator that things are going to turn. And I see this happen all the time, and they go further and further and further into that debt hole to a point where they actually have to bankrupt their entire lives. And I see this often, and I do everything I can to steer people away from that.
Yeah. Well, I have a follow-up to that because I know another part of it that I wanted for you to be able to double down, because I feel like we've been talking about it kind of like on the edges of our whole conversation today. So I know that like building a business, it's not just about the income part, it's about wealth that you create that you can actually keep, right? And you've talked about that in a roundabout way. So can you explain the difference between income and profit, and then why understanding that difference is so key for long-term success?
Oh, sure. Those income and profit are apples and oranges, right? Income is revenue or sales. Those are a bunch of different names for them. Revenue, sales, income. That's the top of your financial report. That's the money coming in. But chances are you're going to have expenses against that money, what it takes to run your business. So if we're in construction, it's going to be all your materials, maybe some subcontractors, maybe your team, your staff, your employees, your licenses, right? So, and if you're a restaurant, you're going to have your food and beverage purchases, you're going to have your payroll, et cetera. So then you have all the expenses. So your income, your revenue at the top, then you have everything it took you in order to create that revenue. So all of your expenses. And then when you subtract all that, the very bottom, so that's the profit. That's the money. The way I like to put it is that's the money that your business printed. So if every business is literally like a dollar making machine, and that's how I see them in my head. So we have the input, the sales, and then all the things that have to happen, in things that you pay for. And then what's left is what's, put out in the end. And that's your profit. The thing is that profit, it doesn't just go in your pocket or go to a personal private jet or something like that. Like it goes back usually right into the business to keep doing more sales, or it goes to debt, or it goes to whatever. So it's very, very big difference. Income is the big number at the top. Profit is what is left after everything is said and done. And it's an important distinction to make, and extremely important. I'm so glad you asked me that, because one of the stories in my book, and it's probably one of the worst stories in terms of what ended up happening is just we worked with this burger shack. He was in Notre Dame by the university. And he didn't realize, I don't think he knew the difference between income, profit, whatever. He just knew that he got a lease on a cute little restaurant space and that the college students loved his burgers, and he charged whatever. I think at the time, this was years ago, I think he charged like $7.50 for a burger, and it came with some fries and a basket. And he was busy, but he never had enough money to pay everything. So he kept incurring debt, incurring debt, incurring debt, and couldn't figure out, I don't understand what's going on. So when he came to us, we ended up really constructing his financials. So he didn't have that. He had a business where he had a bank account that the money from the sales would pour into. And then whenever, someone said, hey, you owe me for the burger buns, or you owe me for the ground beef, you owe me for the ketchup, he'd just write them a check. Here you go. And that was his business model. So when we got in there and we started putting together all of the pieces, I created his entire set of financials where we had the sales that were coming in. Yep, got it, your deposits. And then we tracked every single penny going out of his business, every vendor, every payroll, everything, and got to the bottom. It was a giant negative. And he didn't realize that. So as we dove deeper, in his mind, he thought, oh, if I'm charging $7.50 for a burger, like, whoa, what's a beef patty and a bun and some pickles? Like, what's that? I don't know, like maybe like $1. Like in his mind is what he's thinking, like all just in his head. But when we actually menu costed out the bun, the ketchup, the burger, the ground beef, everything, it was costing him like $4.50 to sell a $7.50 burger, leaving him with $3 for payroll, for his rent and utilities, literally for every other expense that he was losing, something like $2.50 on every single burger he sold. So now, if this guy was busy and a line out the door, he was losing money every time he sold something, and he had no idea. So it's so incredibly important to understand not only the difference, but have a business where you're tracking everything so you have the full picture, and that you make sure that whatever it is you're selling not only covers your expenses, but there's money left over. That's the profit.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for answering that, because I really felt it was so important to really have that question defined and just to really
Mhm.
have it answered it alone, aside from everything else. So I have a final question for you.
Yeah.
Through your consulting, your teaching, your writing, your book,
Mhm.
I should say, you've built
Mhm.
a practice it's centered around helping others thrive. So if every woman who's listening in today could walk away with one message about building wealth with integrity, because I feel it's so important to have integrity behind everything that we do, what would you most want her to remember?
So I'd say this is what I'd want her to remember. And then there's an action step that I would want her to do. So one, remember that profit is not greed, not even close. And if that was ever in your brain, or any word around greed at all, to completely erase that from your DNA in your brain, because it is absolutely not. A business can't survive without profit, and is also a choice that you make. It's not something that you wait and see after you received all the sales come in, you pay all your bills, and you hope and pray there's something left over. That's not what profit is either. Profit is a choice that you make, and you should make that choice on every single dollar, which brings me to the action step. And this is how I started before I even knew about profit first and all these things, is that you should, I don't know if I should say you should, but I'm going to say you should put 1% or $1 or whatever makes sense for your life aside in a savings account. What I did when I was much younger is, how they have those online savings accounts? Now I use them as a tool in all the businesses we work with. But there's, American Express offers savings, and Synchrony Bank and Ally and Discover savings accounts. All of these non-really brick and mortar banks offer these high yield, or called high yield personal savings. Last year they were paying like 4.5%, which was amazing. And all of my clients made a ton of money off that. But now they're lowering it, but still around 3%, still pretty good. But my point is, even when I started these and they were like barely, you're paying under 1% at the time, what I did was you set up an automatic transfer from your main, your checking account, whatever you use for your life. And I started with, I think I started with $5 a week. So when you set up these accounts, you set up these transfers, they're connected to your local bank, wherever you have your bank account. And I did $5 a week, and I would set that aside. It would automatically come out. There was nothing I had to do other than set it up once and every week $5. And then you forget about it because it's $5. You're not really thinking about it. And after a few months, I was like, oh my God, there's like almost $100 in there because it's the money I put in plus the interest being accrued. And I thought I didn't miss it. And so then at that point, I'm like, I'm gonna try $25 a week. And if I miss it, I could always go back and change it back to 5. But I'm gonna try 25. So I did that, and sure enough, I didn't miss it at all. And I'm like, okay. And by the end of that year, I think there was like 1,000 or so in there. I'm like, this was amazing. I didn't even miss it. It happened without me thinking about it. And now I'm building wealth. So at that point, I'm like, I'm going to do $100 a week. I mean, I was making more money at the time. Things were going well. I'm like, I'm going to try 100. Again, I could always switch it back to 25 or 5 or 0. But let me see if I could just live without $100 a week. Let me see what happens. Because here's what happens. This is what I see all the time. You set it up. You set it and forget it. It happens. You know the money is coming out, but you're not really thinking about it. You're just thinking about what's left in the bank, and you're making your decisions based on that. And you learn how to live with what's left over. You just do because you kind of have to, and you don't even think about it. So it was $100. I think I did it for a year. So now that was like $5,200, 52 weeks. And now I've added, so I had almost 10,000 in there. And now it's even more at $250 because, I'm going to use this for my kids' college savings. So then just doing that, but you could start with doing $1 a week. But I would recommend that because it builds wealth without you even having to do anything other than set up the account or trying. It also helps you kind of live within the means of your life, and you gamify it by saying, let me do a little bit more. Let me do a little bit more. And before you know it, it is just beautiful, very small, very simple wealth building mechanism. And once I did that, it literally, Leslie, it was like building a muscle. So once that muscle was really strong for me, I'd say after the first year, like I was showing a good bicep. Like that was a pretty good muscle. I'm like, okay, now I understand the 401k or the simple IRA. Like now I get it. So I'm going to look into doing that for my business and doing some wealth that way. So I did it that way too. But I like the idea of controlling it myself, opening up my own savings and kind of watching that money go. Like, I feel like that changed everything for me, and it does for all the clients that we implement this with. And I think it will for this audience as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Such great advice. Thank you so much, Kasey. I really loved having you on today. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your journey, your story, how Spark was sparked, if you will.
Exactly.
The business, the work that you're doing with your clients, helping them to build real sustainable wealth. I think that's so important. I loved hearing about what it takes for what profit truly means. First of all, the difference between income and profit, why values matter in financial decision making, because it is very important, and how smart systems can really create so much more than just revenue. They can create freedom. And so I just really want to say thank you for being open and sharing about your journey, about wealth, because again, I think it's so important we have a good relationship with our money and that we understand that it's energy and a tool that supports the life we're building and the impact we want to make, right? So again, Kasey, you've been incredible today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Leslie. I loved our conversation. I could talk all day. This was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you'd like to connect with Kasey directly, learn more about her consulting work, and pick up a copy of Profit First for Restaurants, if that's the business that you are in, you can find her contact information in the show notes. Remember, wealth doesn't have to come at the cost of your values or your peace of mind. When your numbers work for you, not against you, you create a business that can grow without grinding you down. That's not just financial strategy. That's integrity in motion. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Welcome to another season of Crypto with Kamal on Electricast. Where we explore the future of money and how digital assets are reshaping our world. I'm your host, Kamal Hubbard. Web3 is not just a buzzword, it's a movement that empowers you, your family, and community. So if you're passionate about financial technology or just want to stay ahead of the curve, make sure to tune in and subscribe to Crypto with Kamal wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast.